In this video, I'm going to be covering the topic of brake noise. Brake noise can be one of those things that's extremely infuriating for customers and for yourself as you're rolling up to a stop and you can hear some squealing or screeching as you slow down. That can be extremely easy to fix and in some cases extremely difficult to rectify. As a professional technician with over 20 years experience, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the tips and tricks I've used to rectify those issues. The first thing I'm going to do is give you example clips on brake noise. So I'm going to share with you some examples I've captured in the workshop to give you an idea of what these different sounds can present like. That noise is a classic wear indicator noise. So the brake pads on some vehicles have wear indicators, and that is what's making the noise on this car.
And again.
And now that you've heard how those noises can present, the next thing you want to do is actually assess the vehicle, confirm if the noise is coming from the front or the rear, and then start to do the removal so you can inspect further. When you have the vehicle up and in the air, let's say it is the front of the vehicle, you want to spin the wheel before you remove it. Confirm that it actually free spins and you're not in a position where you may have a restriction, a caliper getting stuck on where a square seal may be jamming, or some pitting or rusting can be causing or any hardware component or braking item that is sticking can be causing it to actually have excessive friction on it. So once you confirm that it's actually free spinning, whip the wheel off and you can dive into further inspection. And once you have the wheel removed, you can start to assess the brake components for any issues. The visual check you want to do is before you have any items removed. You would be surprised how many times I've seen incorrect installed parts, and you can catch it at this stage. Here's some clips of incorrect pads being installed and slide pins being installed, and there's a whole list of ones I've caught by just doing the visual check at this point. You want to assess the brake rotor or the brake shoes for the actual condition they're in. You want to check to see if there's any heat spots, damaging, cracking, visible, whether there's a large lip on those discs as well. And then on the pad side, you want to check the outer and the inner brake pad. You want to check if it's got a wear indicator that may be making noise. If that's worn down, and you may have a decent amount of material still left on the pad, but you want to confirm all of those. The inner pad can definitely be lower than the outer pad in some cases, and it can be difficult to view without removing the caliper. With the restriction of some of the viewpoints on that caliper bracket, aka cradle, or the caliper itself, it can limit your viewpoint to actually see the material of the pad. So you want to be certain you have a good inspection done and you know how much material is left. When you're at the point of removal, it's at this stage that you want to confirm everything is moving. So as you remove the bolts to take that caliper off, you want to confirm slide pins and everything is moving. You want to confirm that everything is free. As you wind pistons back or you take off brake drums, you want to confirm that the actual brake shoes are moving side to side and you have free movement. If there's any restriction there, you're going to catch it at this stage as well. And this is one of the things that gets overlooked when people are just taking off items. Have they noticed any restriction in the components when they are in the removal stage? The next stage is one of the ones I see overlooked all of the time, and that's cleaning. So when you get to the point you've removed, let's say you've confirmed what you're going to replace, when you get to that point, you want to now clean everything off, whether it's using a brake clean can to take all the brake dust off. You don't want to be using any compressed air because you certainly don't want to be inhaling any of that hazardous dust into your lungs, or whether you actually wash down all the components. Any way you want to do it, just make sure the surface areas are clean. You're going to be using wire brushes or wire wheels. I utilize electrical tools and various different parts like this that go into my hex driver, and I can get into the hard to reach areas, so the brake pad will have lovely clean surface areas to actually move. Another area that I see all of the time left uncleaned is underneath these. So these metal pieces, these brackets that sit down, or these clips that slide in, if you have a build-up of dirt and dust underneath here, when they push down, the brake pad won't sit down into it far enough, and you can have pressure in that brake pad to cradle. So cleaning underneath surface areas is very important. When you have the brake disc off, having the hub all cleaned off, so any rust, any dirt, any build-up of any kind is all removed. And then when you have that done, it's on to the installation part. When you get to the installation part, the most important part of this is lubrication. But you have two different issues that I've seen: too much lubricant or not enough lubricant. So you want to be in a position to where you're just putting a light film across it. You don't want to have a heavy amount of lubricant. I have seen slide pins being absolutely balled up with this stuff to where they actually couldn't go in all the way because the lubricant was jammed at the bottom, whether it's copper grease some people are using, or in this case I use just a Bendix one, but you can use whatever you want. I like this one. It's got a good temperature range. It's not going to do any damage to the rubbers. So this is the lubricant I use when doing brake jobs, but it's a small amount you want to use on the top and bottom of the brake pad. In the cases of these clips, you don't necessarily need to have the lubricant on. I've seen both done by mechanics and both is very successful. I'm absolutely fine if you have everything perfectly clean and new pads being installed where you don't put lubricant down in that area. But if you want to put a drop, that's absolutely fine as well. The other thing is, when you are installing it all back together, check the rubber in the slide pin, make sure that's not enlarged or swelled. Check all the dust boots that they're not damaged to where they'll allow dust or water or dirt in there. And when you have everything back and lubricated, that it actually can move freely. You don't want to have large lumps of stuff which is causing a restriction or attracting dirt and dust onto it when you have the job completed. With regards to the back of the pad, I see a lot of people lubricating that as well. You only need a tiny amount, whether it's on the piston side or whether it's on the caliper side that pushes on it. You just want to have enough area on it to where it stops friction, but that's it. You don't have to cover all of the pad on both sides, definitely not. So limit your lubrication, put the cleaning before the lubrication. Having a clean job is more important than having a largely lubricated job with dirt hidden underneath. Then on to the final part of it. You've put everything back together, everything is free, you've replaced pads and rotors, pads and discs, and you are now at a stage where the job is ready to go back to the customer. What I've seen is people fail to do the bed-in process on the actual jobs. So they may have coating on the brake discs nowadays, and that can lead to noises. So you want to make certain when you're taking those for a test drive, you're getting rid of all of that so the customer isn't experiencing that noise. The first time I did encounter that, I actually thought there was an issue with the brakes until all of that surface coating had come off, and then I knew everything was fine. They are putting that on to limit the cleaning that you have to do. You don't have to clean or degrease off those brake parts when they come. It's straight install and fit, and then it limits rust. It is a noticeable thing, and it can be extremely loud on the initial test drive. Something to be aware of. When you're doing the bed-in on the road test, allow for enough to where the actual surfaces start to mate together. Don't just do a 5-second test drive and come back. Go for at least a number of minutes to where you've done multiple brake cycles at a certain speed, reduce it down, and you should actually in some cases feel the brake get better as they bed in. Then the customer can drive off. Lastly on that, if you do find after you've new parts installed and the noise comes back for whatever reason, do not rule out faulty parts. Don't rule out brand new brake pads or brand new brake discs, aka rotors, causing the issue. I have seen this in the past where new parts and everything has been done correctly and a brake squeal comes later on down the road. I did have a case on a Mercedes in particular where the noise kept coming back within 1,000 Ks, and it was all down to the brands that were used. So sometimes you may have to use OE quality or very high quality brake part equipment, and if you have that issue, I would recommend replacing the brands that you're using to something more suitable. And that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful and informative. If you did, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.